Okay, today we're going to be playing with on the C230, we're going to be playing with the throttle body. Right here, cleaning it out. I'm going to take it off and clean it out. It's an electronically actuated throttle. Your throttle cable comes in here, so as you push on your throttle, it pulls, and this pentometer, or pentanometer, whatever you want to call them, I'm not sure exactly how to say that. Anyway, it takes an electrical signal from here, sends it to the carburetor, basically the carburetor, the throttle body, what looks like a carburetor, what you might think of as a carburetor. It's a throttle body, and it opens a little throttle butterfly in there, which allows more or less air in. And anyway, this I'll show you this when we get it off. First thing I'm going to do is clean this, and then I'll explain a little bit more. I'm going to clean on the outside so I don't get any gunk going in there when I open it up. So I'm going to be back in a minute after I hose this down and clean it. Okay, so now that that's all clean and hosed down, I'm going to pull off the upper intake, pull the wire out of the little groove on the top, loosen the lower hose clamp. You can remove the upper one too, but the lower one's just going to pull them all off. You got to pull it off anyway. And then the one on the mass airflow sensor side, and the air breather for the cylinder head. Pop it off and then slide to the left out of this little rubber bung, and then pull the whole thing off and out of the way. Now you can see the intake. There's a little bit of water splashed in there, and you can see how filthy that is. So we're going to pull this whole thing off, take it apart, and clean it. And one of the things that the ECU does is it adjusts the flap opening for idle. And if this is dirty, you're going to get a little bit, it's not going to know to adjust it a little bit more to get the idle higher. So anyway, we're going to clean this out. I'm going to pull this off. I think these are T7s, but I'll let you know in a second. See that steam cleaner couldn't get back to that last bolt, so I'm going to wipe that off. I don't want that going down. Unhook the electrical connector, but I'll show you how to do that in 2 seconds. Okay, wiped a little bit of gunge out of there. So to disconnect this electrical connector, take a screwdriver and gently pry. Let's see if I can get a little closer for you. Pry up on the outer edge. See the 2 little pins here? There's one on each side. It rotates on those, so you push up gently. If it's not going to come, then you can pry out the 2 little tabs gently from the side. Sorry. Over top of the 2 little pins. Just gently pop them off, because this thing has probably never been off your car. And you don't want to break the clip at the bottom. Yeah, come on out of there. Come on. Should be using 2 hands, but anyway, there we go. Okay, you cock. I've had about enough of that. Okay. Lift. Get out of there. Hulk smash. Okay. And this is really tight. It should just pop right up. And that's what I mean by you don't want to break it, because they are fragile. This one didn't break. So put the clip aside, and then slide the electrical connector out. And you can see that it only goes in one way. See the pin on the bottom? And that only goes in one way. It's kind of got a squared side there. So now we're going to put that aside. And these are T5 or 5mm Allen headed or Torx, Allen headed or Allen key bolts. And we're going to unbolt those and take off the throttle body. Back in a second. Okay, last of the T5 bolts. Unhook the little vacuum line. Just pull that off. This whole assembly should lift right off. Okay, and I don't want to turn it over because I've got the screws in there, but as you can see from underneath, it's pretty gunky. So I'm going to be cleaning that up with some, actually I'm going to use Seafoam because it's a really good carb cleaner and throttle body cleaner. And look how gummed up the little net is in there. and we look down in, and woohoo, fun time. Let me get a flashlight so you can see down in there. It's pretty gunky. I'll get a flashlight. Okay, I don't know how well you can see in there, but it's pretty grimy, slimy. So we are going to be blasting some Seafoam or Carb cleaner or throttle body cleaner, whatever you want, into there to get all that gunk off. Wow, a lot of junk in there. Okay, back in. Okay, so at the intake I'm using Seafoam Carb cleaner. It's a lubricant as well as a cleaner, and I'm gonna hose down this sucker and let it sit a while, because it's going to take a while. This stuff is just going to burn up in the engine as it goes, so it's not going to kill it. And oh, I'll show you the underside of the throttle body. Look at that. Nice, huh? So again, just be using some Seafoam and a parts cleaning brush. You can use a toothbrush, you can use a paintbrush, anything you can get on there. Work the stuff in. You're just trying to get all this crap off, wipe it off. Careful not to get any in the electrical connector. You don't want to blast into there. Jam a little rag or something in there is what I'm going to do, and clean everything off, and we'll be back in a few minutes. It's just a matter of cleaning. That's all we're doing. Okay, so I just got the throttle body sitting in an old bowl, and just with a stiff, semi-stiff, not super stiff brush. This is a parts cleaning brush, but like I said, you can use a toothbrush, a paintbrush, anything. You're just going to work it all into there and get all this crap off. And you can see the dirt coming out of it. It's pretty nasty, but it's 320,000 kilometers worth of crud in there. So we're going to do the same thing to the underside. I got a stuff to cover up the electrical connector, because I'm going to turn it over now into the tub of cleaner, so I don't want anything in there, so I'm going to plug that up. Back in a minute. And I rarely use the rubber gloves on my hands, but hey, they work good for plugging up that electrical connection. Now this is going to take a while. This is really carbon on there. Really baked on there for years. Seafoam, it does work really good for this stuff. It's a ridiculously good carb cleaner. I mean, look how fast that's coming off. I've used tons of carb cleaners before. Usually they don't go this quick. Seafoam is a really good one if you can find the Seafoam spray carb cleaner stuff. So we're just going to continue on doing this, and I'm going to do the same thing inside the intake manifold, and then we're going to put everything back together, and be back to you in a few minutes, because I'm sure you don't want to watch me clean this for the next 15 minutes. One thing I'm going to add, just as a precaution, do not scrape on this surface, this or the other surface on top of the manifold. There's no gasket in here, so these surfaces have to be perfectly smooth. And you can use your fingernail, but don't use anything tougher than your fingernail or the paintbrush to get this crap off. Don't take a razor blade, do not take a screwdriver. If you make a scratch in this surface, you're going to get an air leak that you cannot correct. So I got to show you, the Seafoam melted that stuff, and my fingernail basically took it off. So again, on the other surface, here's the mating surface on top of the intake manifold. There's no gasket on this part, so don't go nuts on it with something nasty. This is starting to come off on the inside there, as you can see a little bit, but it's going to take a while. But yummy. Back in. I'm just cleaning out the filter basket that goes underneath the throttle body, and at the top where the little mesh is a little bit finer up around here on the edges. This is also the seal. There's a rubber seal in here. This basically seals your throttle body to the intake manifold as well. I don't know if you can see it very well in the camera, but see, it's really carboned up along the edges, and that's where the gunky crankcase fumes that are all oily and stuff that come back. That's the first place they're going to hit, is this screen. Well, after they hit the butterfly flap on the throttle valve, you're going to hit this screen and they're going to clog up like it does right there. See how it's clogged kind of at the edge? And that's going to impede airflow a little bit, and that could be the reason for a low idle as well. So it's going to take a while longer to work. I keep moving out of the camera, sorry. To work the brush through these mesh holes and pop the carbon out. Actually, you can see on my hand, see the little chunks of carbon that's coming out. So anyway, I'm going to work that through, and that's the last thing I have to clean before I put this all together. It's only about a half-hour job, maybe, well, give yourself a beer in an hour. It's no big deal. If it's a nice day, it's not hard, it's not really finicky, there's no bolts that are tough to take out, there's no nothing that's going to be frustrating. It's actually one of those, like changing your spark plugs, just one of those fun jobs. Rewarding. Anyway, I'll be back to you in a few minutes. Okay, we're almost done. Inside of the intake is cleaned out. Most of that you see there left is just that's discoloration. You're not going to get all the discoloration off, but all the chunks and nasties are gone. I put a little bit of dielectric grease back on the connector, so when I plug it back in, the throttle body is now all cleaned off. Again, I can't stress enough, use a soft bristle brush. Don't use anything hard, no wire wheel. And you can see the mating surfaces are nice and clean now. You don't want to get any scratches on any of that stuff. Any of the carb cleaner that you get down the intake is fine. It's just going to burn off. We'll end up doing a nice little Seafoam smoke show after this. So I'm going to put this back on. I've cleaned the 4 bolts. It's just a matter of bolting this back on and putting it all back together, and I'll show you in a minute. Okay, almost done. Filter basket cleaned and put back in. Again, the little gasket is about the only thing sealing this carb to the carb throttle body to the intake manifold. This little basket around the edges here was really carboned up. Took a while to get that all clean. That was probably about the longest job. Took about 15 minutes to clean that all out. I had to use like an ice pick to pick some little pieces of carbon through the mesh. And this screen just keeps like squirrels and wolverines and stuff from getting inside your intake manifold, because those are horrible inside your car. It's just for keeping big chunks from going past. If anything ever does get sucked in, it won't end up inside your engine. So we're just going to put the throttle body back on. Just going to lightly set each one of these bolts. Get each one of them started. Plug connector, a little bit of dielectric grease on that. Plug back in. As you can see, the little flip retainer, I did put it back on. That, clip the 2 ears back on. And it just pushes down and clips in. And we're going to tighten these 4. I'm not even going to use the socket wrench for now. I'm just going to tighten all 4 gently by hand, and then I'm going to tighten them all to about 10 pound-feet of torque, because they're not supposed to be cranked on there. They're not lug nuts. So we're just going to lightly do those, and you'll tighten them in a crisscross pattern, like 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of like tightening up 4 lug wheel nuts. Don't forget to put the vacuum line back on. Again, gently tighten, not torquing, not cranking for everything you're worth. And go back and do one final little 1/8 return, and we're done. So now we're just going to put the intake air hose back on. You can clean it out a little bit. You're not going to be able to get your hand in there. There's probably going to be a little bit of oil from the crankcase breather that goes back up into it. Wipe it out a little bit, but you're not going to be able to get much. But that's essentially it. Re-lube, because we've degreased everything. We're going to re-lube this with a couple of drops of motor oil, or whatever lube you want to use. I use motor oil on them. You can use transmission fluid too as well. But I'll show you the smoke show in a second once we start it up, because a lot of that seafoam that's dripped down the intake manifold is going to come burning out. So we'll see it in a minute. Okay, there's your nice seafoam smoke show. Take a few minutes to burn off, but anyway, that's about it. Let's rev it up a bit more and see how much smoke we can get out. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of it. Anyway, that's about it. Okay, now regarding idle, it's kind of hard to tell your exact idle speed on the tachometer. I mean, what's 600, what's 700, you know, it's kind of hard to tell. You can tell what 500 is and 1,000, but anyway, we're going to use the climate control panel reading for that. So right now we're idling at 700 RPM. Number 21 on the test is RPM plus add a 0. So 800 RPM. Now, it was about 600 to 650 in drive, so we're neutral right now, or sorry, in park right now. I'm going to put it in drive. Oh, 600. What are you doing? It's probably still burning seafoam up, but 700 would be an increase of about 50 RPMs, 50 to 100 RPMs. So like I said, it's in drive right now, and that is, I can tell it's a slightly higher idle than it was before, but still got a lot of seafoam to burn out of that intake, so that might affect it as well. See it drop down a tiny little bit there. Can't notice that. It does that 660 to 70, 600 to 700 RPM drop dip. I can't tell. Like, I don't feel that at all. Doesn't feel any different. Could be the sensor. I don't know how it's sensing. But anyway, it does feel a tiny bit smoother. To me, anyway. Who knows? Could just because I did an hour of work. Maybe I want to feel that way. I have no idea. Anyway, thanks for watching.